Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Today, I want to talk to those of you who have ever been made to feel like an option, like someone who could be picked up or put down, depending on someone else's convenience. If you've ever sat by the phone, wondering why he disappeared, questioning your worth, or blaming yourself for his indecision, this is for you. Because now, it's no longer about what he did, it's about what you choose to do next. This is your moment to reclaim your self-worth, to turn pain into power, and to remind yourself of what you truly deserve. When someone treats you like an option, your instinct might be to prove your worth to them, to show them that you're valuable, lovable, irreplaceable. But here's the truth that often gets overlooked. The most powerful move you can make isn't to fight for their attention, it's to remove yours. We think the loudest way to make someone notice us is to talk, explain, reach out, but in reality, silence is what echoes the loudest when it comes from someone who used to care. You were available, you showed up, you invested your time, energy, and heart. And still, he couldn't decide. Still, he kept you at arm's length while pulling you close just enough to keep you around. That push-pull dynamic isn't love, it's control. And when someone plays with your emotions like that, the most profound thing you can do is opt out. Let them feel what it's like to live without your presence, your light, your consistency. Here's what happens when you step back. The comfort he once took for granted becomes a discomfort he can't ignore. The late-night texts, the effortless validation, the warmth of knowing someone always cares, it's all gone. Not in bitterness, not in revenge, but in quiet, powerful clarity. Because when someone treats you like an option, you don't argue to be chosen, you choose yourself. And that choice is a statement that says, I'm not waiting to be picked. I'm not standing in line for someone who doesn't see what's right in front of them. People don't realize the value of something when it's always there. Familiarity can dull appreciation, but the second you disappear from their world, the second your energy stops flowing in their direction, they're forced to sit with the space you used to fill. And that space, it's not silent, it's deafening. Because when you've been someone's emotional anchor, your absence doesn't feel like a moment, it feels like a storm. And here's what's beautiful. Your absence isn't just a wake-up call for him, it's a healing process for you. In that space where you stop chasing, you start growing. In the quiet where you once anxiously waited for a text, you begin to rediscover your own voice. You start to remember who you were before you placed your self-worth in someone else's hands. You reclaim your dignity, and in doing so, you no longer ask, why didn't he choose me? You start declaring, I choose me now. That shift is powerful. It's not rooted in ego, it's rooted in love. Not love for him, love for yourself. Because when you finally walk away from being treated like an option, you don't just leave him behind. You leave behind every version of you that accepted less than what you deserved. And that is the moment he starts to feel the pain he never thought would come. Let him feel it. There comes a moment when you realize that explaining yourself is no longer your job. That moment usually comes after you've tried to show how much you cared, tried to express your feelings clearly, tried to be patient, to understand, to compromise, and still, it wasn't enough. Not because you were lacking, but because the person on the other side was never really listening. Not truly. They were comfortable keeping you in a place that served them, not you. And you, hoping to be seen, kept explaining, hoping your words would change something. But they never did. At some point, you've got to stop explaining and start elevating. Elevating your standards, elevating your self-respect, elevating your energy out of situations that make you question your worth. When someone consistently shows you they don't value your presence, your response shouldn't be more words, it should be more space. You don't need to outline your worth in bullet points for someone who's already shown they're blind to it. You don't need to educate someone on how to treat you when they're fully grown and capable of making choices. Their actions are loud, and you've been listening. Now it's time for your actions to be just as loud. You can't teach someone to value you by sticking around through their disrespect or indifference. You show them what you're worth by walking away the moment it's clear they don't see it. And that's not you being dramatic or heartless. That's you being wise. That's you choosing peace over chaos. That's you finally understanding that someone who's truly interested won't need convincing. Let me tell you this, when you stop explaining and start elevating, something incredible happens. You shift the dynamic. You stop playing a part in their game, and that's when they feel it. Not because you're punishing them, but because you've stopped rewarding them with access to you. You've stopped participating in the narrative where you have to earn someone's basic decency or effort. You've turned your energy inward, back where it belongs. And they will notice. Maybe not immediately, but eventually. Because they'll look around for the comfort they once took for granted, and it won't be there. They'll search for the certainty you used to provide and realize it's gone. And in that moment, they'll finally understand the value of what they lost. But by then, you'll have moved on. Not because you're trying to make a statement, but because you've outgrown the version of yourself that settled for confusion over clarity. You don't need to be chosen by someone who made you feel optional. You need to choose yourself so fiercely that they begin to wonder why they ever thought you'd wait around. Let your silence do the talking now, and let your elevation be the only answer they never expected. One of the hardest things to accept after someone treats you like an option is that deep craving for validation, the need to hear them say, "You mattered, you were important, I made a mistake." It's natural. You gave your heart, you showed up. And when it wasn't reciprocated, the pain didn't just come from what happened, it came from the doubt it planted in you. Was I not enough? Was I too much? Did I mean anything to him at all? We all seek closure, especially when someone leaves us hanging between what could have been and what never was. But here's the truth that will set you free. Real closure doesn't come from the person who hurt you. It comes from within. Waiting for someone to finally wake up and realize your worth keeps you emotionally tethered to their timeline. And the longer you wait, the more power you give away. When you're constantly replaying old conversations, checking if they've watched your stories, wondering if maybe, just maybe, they'll text you with some grand confession, you're still seeking permission to move on. And the moment you stop doing that, the moment you stop needing them to validate your experience, is the moment you take your power back. Because needing them to acknowledge your pain is like asking the fire to apologize for burning you. It's not going to happen. And even if it does, it won't heal you the way you think it will. You don't need him to say you were special for it to be true. You don't need him to regret losing you for it to mean he lost something real. His recognition doesn't define your value. You define that. And the irony is, the moment you stop chasing that validation is often the exact moment he starts to feel your absence. Not because you said something profound or made a dramatic exit, but because you finally stopped performing for someone who never truly saw you. The validation you were looking for out there, that sense of being enough, of being worthy, of being loved, it was never his to give. It's yours to reclaim. And that starts with refusing to let someone's indecision become your identity. It starts with choosing yourself even when someone else didn't. That's where your power is, not in proving them wrong, but in proving to yourself that you never needed them to be right about you in the first place. Let go of the apology you never received. Release the need to be understood by someone who wasn't even trying to understand you. You already know the truth. You already lived it. And you don't need anyone else to confirm your experience for it to be real. You were always enough. You just needed to believe it louder than their silence. There's a moment after rejection when the emotions feel so overwhelming, they almost paralyze you. You sit with the heartbreak, the confusion, the anger, and it feels like you're drowning in it all. And in that space, it's easy to believe that the only thing to do is feel, to let the sadness take over, to let the loss define you, to let the silence become the story. But if there's one thing I've learned, it's this. Feeling is important, but staying stuck in those feelings is a choice. At some point, you have to shift from emotion to decision. It's okay to hurt. It's okay to cry, to grieve what could have been, to feel the sting of being treated like you didn't matter. That's human. You gave something real, and that should never be dismissed. But pain is not your home. It's just a stop along the way, and you get to decide how long you stay there. There's a difference between processing what happened and clinging to it. If you're not careful, the very pain that was caused by someone else becomes the prison you keep yourself in. You can keep waiting for them to come back. You can keep hoping that one day they'll realize what they lost. Or you can choose right now to say, this ends with me, not the story, not the hope, the cycle of doubting yourself, of tying your worth to someone else's behavior, of letting one person's lack of commitment make you question everything beautiful about you. That cycle ends the moment you decide that your peace is more important than their attention. Choosing yourself isn't a feeling, it's a decision. And that decision doesn't always come with fireworks or clarity. Sometimes it comes quietly in the middle of the night when you finally delete the thread of messages you've read 100 times. Sometimes it comes in the silence after you resist the urge to text them one last time. And sometimes it comes when you look in the mirror and finally say, I deserve more than this. You don't move on because the pain magically disappears. You move on because you realize that staying in that pain does nothing to serve you. Emotion says, but I still love him. Decision says, but I love me more now. And that's the moment the shift begins. Not when they call, not when they apologize, not when they finally treat you right. The shift begins when you stop waiting for them to change and start becoming the version of you who doesn't settle for confusion, inconsistency, or crumbs of affection. It's okay to feel it, but don't live there. Let the feelings pass and let the decision rise. There's something powerful that happens when you stop showing up for someone who took your presence for granted, when you no longer reply to their late-night texts, when you don't react to their stories, when you stop being the emotional safety net they assumed would always be there. That's when they begin to feel the weight of what they lost. Not because you were trying to punish them, but because your absence now speaks the truth they chose to ignore. He may not have noticed you were special when he had you. Why? Because he was too busy assuming you'd always be around. Too busy thinking your love was unconditional, no matter how he showed up or didn't. People often confuse consistency with availability. He confused your kindness for weakness, your patience for passivity, your love for something he could come back to whenever it was convenient. But love doesn't work like that. Real connection doesn't live on standby. And when you finally decide to step back, when you stop chasing clarity from someone who never offered it willingly, something shifts, not just in him, but in you. You begin to reclaim your time, your energy, your emotional space. And in doing that, he begins to notice what he didn't see when you were standing right in front of him. Not because you begged him to see it, but because you stopped giving him the privilege of access. That access you once offered so freely, it came from a place of love. You were open, vulnerable, available. But when someone treats your openness like an afterthought, it's not on you to keep proving why you're worth keeping. It's on you to walk away with dignity and let the silence do the work. And it will work, because the moment you go quiet, the moment you stop trying to be heard, is the moment they're left listening to an echo, the echo of what they lost. He might scroll through old photos. He might reread your last message. He might even text you, hoping to test the waters and see if you'll still respond like before. But by now, you're different. You've grown. You've realized that someone who genuinely cares doesn't need silence to see your value. They act before they lose you. They show up before it's too late. Let him feel the absence. Let him feel the gap where your energy used to be. Let him finally sit in the emptiness he created. Because the truth is, he needed to lose you to even begin understanding what you truly meant. And maybe he'll never admit it. Maybe his pride won't allow it. But deep down, he'll know. He'll know exactly what he had and exactly how it slipped through his hands. He didn't value you when he had the chance. So now he gets to feel what it's like to no longer have that chance. The most beautiful revenge isn't anger, silence, or making him jealous. It's rebuilding a life so full, so vibrant, so grounded in your worth that the thought of you now feels like a different world to him, one he no longer has access to. When someone treats you like an option, it's easy to feel small, like your value depends on whether or not they pick you. But the truth is, their inability to see your worth doesn't define it. You do. And the moment you start living like you're the prize, everything changes. Not just for them, but for you. You stop waiting for someone to validate your presence. You stop asking why you weren't enough. You stop comparing yourself to whoever they may have chosen instead. Because now, your focus isn't on proving yourself to someone who didn't choose you. It's on becoming someone you are proud to be. And that shift, it's magnetic. It's not about trying to make them feel your glow. It's about finally seeing it yourself. Maybe for a while, you lost yourself. Maybe you were so consumed with the what-ifs and why-nots that you forgot how deeply lovable, capable, and irreplaceable you actually are. But now you remember. You remember that your value isn't tied to someone staying. It's tied to how you show up for yourself. The more you invest in your passions, your peace, your purpose, the less you care about being seen by someone who never really looked. You start setting higher standards, not out of spite, but out of growth. You begin to realize that being treated as an option wasn't a reflection of your shortcomings, but of their limitations. And instead of waiting for them to change, you become the version of yourself that never settles again. You start building a life that doesn't just look good, it feels good. A life filled with people who respect your boundaries, relationships that reciprocate your effort, and experiences that elevate your soul. And while he may come back curious, nostalgic, maybe even regretful, you'll already know the answer, because by then, you'll have lived the days he thought you'd waste missing him. You'll have grown in ways he never expected. You'll have built something so strong within yourself that going back to what broke you will no longer be tempting. This isn't about making him feel pain. It's about refusing to let his inability to choose you stop you from choosing yourself. And that's the most powerful thing you can do. Because when you rebuild a life where you are the prize, you stop being an option for anyone and you start becoming the standard. Let him watch from a distance as you rise into the version of yourself he was never ready for.